So I welcome you guys to the AmpCoil family. We're really excited to invite you into this new paradigm that we're trying to create. There's a lot of things that go into new paradigm. There's language, there's intention, there's thinking outside of the box. So as we move forward, we have this nice little outline here tonight. Number one, in your directions with your AmpCoil, you should have had instructions to download the Quick Start Guide, download the operating manual, and the deep dive on the BetterGuide. And that would also be called Getting Started with the BetterGuide 3.0. Those three bodies of literature are going to be your best friend when working with Lori going forward. We're going to go through a system setup. We're going to go through the software on the BetterGuide, rejuvenating journeys, general detox, and then we're going to go through how to work with support. It's very thorough, and we really want to get you using the system in the right way. So as I said before, you can go to ampcoil.com, and you can actually log into the Help Center on the upper right-hand corner of the website with the email you purchased your device with and your password, which is AmpCoil1. That's the default password unless you change that. You're going to click on the BetterGuide tab and download the Quick Start Guide for the corresponding system and software. Right now, if you log into this Help Center, click on BetterGuide, click on Quick Start Guide for it says 6060. Right now in there, it's going to say 7020 because when we update software, those numbers change. But no, that's the guide you want for this system. You're also going to go into the Help Center and you're going to click on the Getting Started tab. In that Getting Started tab, you're going to have the operation manual, which you want to download. And then as I mentioned before, it's how to get started with the BetterGuide 3.0. All those documents you're going to want to download. And again, as I said before, that is your best friend. You're going to want to print those guides and put them in a 3-ring binder. It's any technology across the board. A deep understanding of that instruction manual is going to deliver you a better user experience, whether that's an iPhone or a flat screen TV or an ionic foot bath or an infrared sauna. So again, just make sure it's in a place where it's ready to use when you're interacting with support. In support, another thing that exists is our setup videos on the Help Center. And that could be videos for a magnetic check, how to run a sound check, and there is a device set up there in there as well. There's also information on accessing and working with the Help Center when you have questions. We really want to take the proper time to set up our device. I can't emphasize this enough. For me personally, what I found that really works, and this is what I advise to my friends who I have the opportunity to go into their home, is that we pick a spot in the house, and that's AmpCoil home base. So whether that's next to your bed or it's next to your couch, it's a really good idea to pick that spot so you're not always packing up and setting everything and replugging the cords. You know, there's multiple videos in support to help you through this process, as I said before. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to unbox a tablet and we're going to charge it to 100%. Just keep in mind that tablets are delicate, and it's a really good idea to get a case to extend the longevity of that tablet. So like a phone or a laptop or any other electronic device, you can probably expect 2 to 3 years with really good tablet care. And sidebar, as technology changes, it may periodically be necessary to upgrade your tablet in the future, but we generally see 2 to 3 years if you really take care of it, which is great. Once that tablet's ready to go, we're going to connect the magnetic coil to the amplifier. That plug cable attaches with a quarter turn to the right, and you're going to hear a nice click when it snaps in place. The next thing you would identify is that standard aux cord, and that is your auxiliary cord that came with your device. It's called a U-green cord. It's actually labeled, and you will always connect that cord to the tablet first and then to the amplifier. The next step in the process is to turn on your system. It's pretty simple. Now, you're going to notice other things that came with your system. You're going to notice a magnet. You're going to notice a digital USB cable. You're going to notice extra fuses. And for right now, you can just store those in a safe place. The one item that you might want would be your digital USB cord. And you do have two different options to connect, but we usually lead with the aux cord, that audio aux cord. And one thing you should know, you cannot connect those cords at the same time to your tablet. You will not get a good sound check. So it's always one. And I think Lori, from your end on support, what you recommend leading with is that aux cord, correct?
Right. We found that they both give about the same. It's just at this point right now, the aux cord is probably more stable. On some of the devices, you can't charge at the same time as using the digital. So, either or, it just depends on preference.
Yeah, and this tablet lasts, the battery life is phenomenal on this tablet. So it's probably, you're not going to need to charge your tablet at the same time as you're coiling. You're going to get a lot of journeys out. I know I just left mine on for 3 days and it's still got charged left to do journeys. So once we're connected, we're really ready to go. It's time to kind of get started. You can see we've got our tablet set up here. I actually, this is I don't have a slide deck for this, but one thing I do, especially with the 3.0, is you have foam in the top of your case. And what I'll do is, I mentioned I have this really nice spot, which is I'll call it AmpCoil Home Base. And I just leave that set up. I leave the tablet right in the top case, just like it's seen in that picture. And it's kind of, it's there. All you're going to do is turn on the tablet, turn on your device, you're ready to coil. Now that first setup right out of the gate, this is a good idea to do, is that go ahead and run a sound check after the initial setup. That first time you plug everything in, you want to make sure you're receiving sound from the coil. And there is a video on a sound check in the Help Center. And after that initial setup, know that in this new software, within the journey, there is a sound check built into the program to ensure you're going to experience AmpCoil the way it was meant to be felt within the body. So you're always going to have a countdown, and you're always going to have a little 5-note scale that's going to end with a little magnetic buzz before the journey. And that's built into every single journey you could pick on the menu. Looking at the BetterGuide software, and if we're talking about the tablet for a moment, you can adjust settings on your tablet by touching the icon in the upper right-hand corner. That's that little squiggle guy that's right under my name, Freddie Kimmel. Or you can swipe from left to right, going across the screen, and you'll notice you'll have some options that pop up there. One of the common questions that we get on support is how to change the sound that will ring at the end of the journey. So if you sit down and you do demo harmonizer, which is about 25 minutes, I believe, at the end of that journey, you'll hear a nice dong, and that's going to ring. You can change the volume of that by going into settings, and you can slide this bar over to the right. So that is something that personally I like to know when the journey's done, especially if there's a little background noise. I kind of put this up to probably like 70%. Another feature that is now on this menu is the voice print. And Lori, I wondered if you wouldn't mind just speaking for a couple moments on when to use the voice print and how often, especially in the initial few weeks of using AmpCoil.
Thanks, Freddie. So voice analysis really does not need to be used until you're through the Quick Start Guide, say the first 30, 60 days. I know everybody likes to use it. It can become like a parlor game for some people. So, we need to understand, first of all, that it says analysis. It's really giving you priorities at that time, and it's forever changing. There are more things than just what your voice is saying. It's, what's in your environment. And so in the instructions or the operation manual, there's a whole section on voice analysis, and I ask that you please read that so that you'll understand what you're getting and why it's always changing. And the other thing is that when you do a voice analysis, you really don't want to run them at the same time that you're cleansing, because the frequencies for what you're cleansing will be pretty strong in your body when you are cleansing them. So it'll definitely come up in your voice print. So it's a tool to use on the side. It's not necessary when you start. You know, once you get into the whole full cleanse, that's when you want to start using the voice analysis to mix with other things that we have in the Quick Start Guide.
Thank you very much, Lori. So getting into the BetterGuide software again. So on this version, so this is any version of the software, 6.0, 6.0 and above, has been designed to run on general and gentle volume settings. And most people are fine with the general use of the volume. Speaking a little more about volume, if you use the general volume and you experience any sensitivities after your session, that could be a prickly sensation or a little bit of an overstimulation, maybe you're a little amped up, then I would temporarily switch to the gentle volume. And if you're that person that has a history of significant electrosensitivities, or if you're a dose-sensitive person, an example is like if you take half the dose of a medication, or you need like 1/4 of an Advil or supplements to get the same effect as a normal person, then begin use with the gentle volume settings. And Lori, you want to add a little bit about volume?
I do want to add just a little bit. Don't feel that if you are sensitive that you have to stay on gentle volume. The volume and the actual journeys that you'll be doing actually bring the magnetics more into balance in the body. So even if you start with gentle, you may find that very shortly you'll be able to move up to general. So in most cases, start on general, see how you do. If you need to go down to gentle, and you'll find after a while that you'll be able to go back up to general in most cases.
Wonderful.
Okay.
It's great. So at this time, if you were that person who has already printed out your quick start guide, you could follow along with us just so we have a really good understanding of what this looks like. You could jump to page 4 and page 5, and now we're going to kind of go through a little bit of this flow chart and see how we're going to work with AmpCoil. Part of this path is, I heard someone turn their page to page 4 or 5. I think it was Kathy.
Yes.
Part of this path is selecting your color-coded path to wellness. And you're going to see in that quick start guide, you're going to see a blue outline path and a green, and you're going to see a red. And one of those avatars, whether you're the low detox potential, which is wellness, or you're the immunocompromised, which is a low to medium detox potential, or you're the sensitive, is going to be the path that you're going to work with AmpCoil. And that wellness individual, that's that low detox potential. It's someone that's probably not struggling with an illness, and they just want to come in and they want to coil and they want to experience a little more wellness in their life. The immunocompromised low to medium detox potential is for those with a health condition that do not present very, very strong detox or high detox response reactions when completing other therapies. This would also be children over the age of 8 who are not highly immunocompromised. I personally identify with the immunocompromised, low to medium. I don't have crazy detox reactions. I'm not in bed for a few days if I go try a sauna, but I do notice things in my body much more than, let's say, my brothers and sisters who have never been through Lyme. They've never had a mold exposure, and they're just not that reactive. The other person we have the sensitive. We have that high detox potential. So there are humans out there who are highly immunocompromised, where a higher than normal detox response reaction occurs. Again, when you take antibiotics or you do a foot bath or you try an infrared sauna, any healing modality, and it really shakes you, this could be that pathway for you to follow. This would also be for children, elderly, or those who are extremely electrosensitive. So that's an outline. And you don't want to get pinned into any of these. I'm going to quote the great Lori Marcus. You always have the option to change paths. You don't have to get roped into any one of these. As you move through that flow chart, there will always be an option to throttle up or speed up or slow down in your path based on how your body handles the frequencies. The AMP coil is actually a very simple technology. It's the body that's complicated. So we have some standard coiling tips that we just recommend everybody follow. Not everybody's used frequency or PMF in their life. So if you're new to this, these are just some really standard go-tos. Coil is tolerated. Slow and steady wins the race. I like to think of it as a beauty contest more than a dash across the finish line. We always want to stay hydrated. I drink water before and after coiling and throughout the day. I find that adding minerals really helps my body maintain that balance. And it's almost like when the body's hydrated, it's going to take that information with that's what's coming from the coil. Its frequency is information, and it's going to do the best possible thing with it. Coiling recommendations: where to place that coil. Heart center, and then right on your solar plexus is fine. I would say the other caveat would be if you want to do a program, you'll notice in your coil like pain release. If you fall and hurt your knee, you overdo it at the gym and you've got a shoulder or a wrist issue, you can put the coil right on that body part. But the general recommendation is to keep the coil away from the head and neck area. Coiling tips, place the coil away from any metal plates, pins, screws, mercury filling, stents, or implants. We always want to keep the coil, again, away from that head. The general recommendation is AMP coil should be safe for use if you're able to have an MRI. If you're able to have an MRI test done, it's that magnetic field that you just want to be aware of. My mom coils, and my mom has a double knee replacement, and when she coils, we just don't put that coil right on her knees, even though it's a ferrous metal for her knee implants. You may coil 30 to 75 minutes a day. That's kind of that pocket window. There's no maximum, there's no minimum, but that's kind of the sweet spot. Cleansing journeys, generally no more than 3 times a week. Let me check my messages here. Got a message coming in. Lori, do you want to add something else about coil care handling?
I do.
Please.
And we didn't put that in here. So I think it's really important that you all know that what you have is a very, very expensive piece of equipment. And just like your $1,000, $5,000 stereo, you need to be very careful with it. And so the first thing that I wanted to add is on the right-hand side of your device is an area that also has a fan. So you need to keep the fan clear and make sure that there's nothing blocking it. The other thing is how you hold the coil. The coil is designed to be pretty sturdy, but if you grab it by the cord and you yank on it and you carry it around by the cord and not the coil itself, then you're going to end up replacing the coil, a lot sooner than you think. So just treat it the way that you would a good piece of stereo equipment.
Yes, or a child that you love very much.
Yes.
So to our coiling recommendations here around time, framing this around time, cleansing journeys, generally no more than 3 times a week. Again, it's always followed with coil is tolerated. And the minimum is 2 full days off a week. Quick story, when I started AmpCoil, which actually, funny enough on this call, I'm 2 days away from my 1-year anniversary of having my coil. Tons of crazy progress since then. We'll talk about that later. But I didn't want to take days off because I had an initial boost in energy that I was really jiving on and feeling. But I can't tell you, it is so important to let the magnetics and the frequency work in your body. Lori likes to say it's like Jello, make the Jello and then you let it set. So 2 days off, that's so important. I mean, and I know, Lori, you have people that have 3 days off and 4 days off sometimes. So we're gonna just do a little example. I just want to walk everybody through because we've talked a lot about the device, a lot about this quick start guide. Just to give you an example of an immunocompromised, low to medium, that's kind of the person dealing with something. You're not totally normal, you're not super sensitive, but just an example of what your first few weeks of coiling might look like following this green flow chart outlined in the quick start guide. So it's all about completing the steps. And when you go to that page 4 and 5, you'll see that there are steps that you're going to follow very clearly. And this is really important. This is what you want to follow. More important than, getting lost in this. You have this perception that this is something that you want to imbalance, an imbalance that you want to take care of. Maybe you see an analysis come up in the VA and the voice print that you want to do. It's really important to think about this flow chart. And so step number 1, if you're in that green chart, your first step is to play nutrition. It's 30 minutes, 29 seconds. And on the next day, you'll see this right in this nutrition album here. It's the third step down, and that's the full nutrition tune-up. And the next day, you're going to move to step 2. The next day, you're going to look at these, what we call the rejuvenating journeys. And you're going to complete at least 2 to 3 days of rejuvenating journeys. And what this does is it allows you to introduce frequency journeys to the body and determine what those reactions might be. You could take a slow path in coiling. You could speed up a little bit. 1 journey a day and 3 times a week as tolerated. This is just a recommendation. Remember, this is our green avatar. All journeys are located on the Discover page in your BetterGuide app. Rejuvenating journeys. Okay, let's talk a little bit about these. Examples. Maybe some people tried Demo Harmonizer when they were trying the technology for experiencing that full benefits of the body and the mind. Other rejuvenating journeys are Balance the Mind. Excellent for brain fog, energy, and motivation. Relax All for emotions and nervous system relief. I often demo people with Relax All, and they get so tired, and it's because they've never felt what relaxed really was. Positivity is great for depression and emotional grounding. And then, of course, we've got Brain Reboot, one of my favorites. I love to run Brain Reboot before I get on a webinar for boosting your brain function. I would also say with that, you might want to run it earlier in the day. It can cause you to be a little bit alert. These rejuvenating journeys are journeys other than organs, general detox, or cleanses that do not contain any detox codes. It's worthy to note that the 2 common cold journeys, which are wonderful, by the way, and the pain journey, they can be played when needed, but know that they do have some detox codes that could cause slight reactions in very sensitive coilers. Funny enough, pain journey was the first journey I ever ran. Step 3 is you're going to go back and you're going to do that nutrition again. You're going to play nutrition tune-up. That's at 30 minutes and 29 second steps. And then you're going to move on to step 4. Lori, why do you have people hit nutrition twice in the first week?
Well, it's always a good time for people to get a little extra boost. And so the tune-up itself gives you the frequencies of all the vitamins and nutrients and enzymes and amino acids. And it kind of reminds the body that your body's supposed to absorb these items and utilize what you have in your body. So it gives you a little frequency of the actual nutrients, but then it also wakes up the neurotransmitters in the brain that say, oh, I don't need magnesium. And so when you start balancing the bioterrain and giving just a little frequency of magnesium, the next time that magnesium comes into play in your body, whether it's in supplements, food, or even frequencies, the body says, oh yeah, I remember magnesium. I'm supposed to absorb that. So that's what we talk about, changing the bioterrain of the body.
Wonderful. And that's where we're headed. So we're headed to step 4. We're getting into the world of general detox, and general detox is something you're going to move through the whole system. You're going to complete the 30 steps of general detox. And General Detox is found in the Discover page. It's the exact picture we're seeing right here. And it works by harmonizing the frequency of general microbes, metals, and toxins associated with individual organ systems and the first level of items keeping your body from achieving that balanced bioterrain. There's no voice analysis required during general detox steps. And while general detox does have some detox codes, they are very gentle. And it's like that, it's like brushing away just that first level that's kind of keeping your body from achieving that balanced bioterrain. If you're moving through this, you're going to see when you open up the BetterGuide app, step one would be airways. And you're going to play that airways step. And then, depending on your body's response, you're going to skip 1 or 2 days, maybe 3, depending on your personal detox response. Now, there are some individuals that can only handle 1 to 2 general detox steps a week. And let's say you play airways, and the next day you've got a little fatigue and fever, feel a little down. You can take 1 to 2 days off. You can also, if it feels right, you can play Herc's Help, which is in the nutrition album. That's 18 minutes and 47 seconds. And you can play that program up to 2 times a day. And it should alleviate some of those symptoms and really help you move through. Resume coiling when that detox response is passed. And just know that you can repeat any step that caused that detox response up to 4 times on different days. We're always thinking about in our head, we're skipping days in between general detox steps. The guidelines, right? So we've got this option. We've got this like little helper to get us through general detox. You might need it, you might not. But if you think about it, like, what does that detox response feel like? Or we could call it a Herc's. You know, it could be a manifestation of the symptoms you're working on. Could be fever, fatigue, aches, or pain. Could be a little brain fog. Everybody's different. And what's unique about AmpCoil is that part of your homework, part of your responsibility is really starting to tap in and feel and listen and see what your body's telling you after you run some of these journeys, because you're going to become more attuned to your body. I know I hear that from people in the community again and again and again. You start to really be able to listen. So always, we're going to think about this. The general rules is you're going to skip at least 1 to 2 days when you play that first, let's say it's Airways 1. And if you feel something, you're going to wait till that detox response passes before you go back and you do it again. The option on the table is when you have, let's say, again, we play Airways, we feel a little fever and fatigue. Before you run your next journey, you can start that day with playing Herc's Help. And then you can move on to the next step and repeat the above for each single step. Ideally, we want to go in order. There's 30 steps. You can jump around. I'm going to let Lori talk about this in a second. You can jump around and target specific areas using the detailed general detox key found at the end of the quick start guide. I really recommend you guys study that and see what each step entails and what's outlined. But once you target, like let's say you want to jump in, my favorite is probably housing 15, because that's the joints and tendons. It's always been my sticking point. So I use that step a lot. But you want to go back and you want to stay on track and keep moving through that general detox. Always avoid overcoiling. It's a coil as tolerated world, and everybody's pace is going to be different.
You know, whatever else is going on in your body, but this lays the groundwork for everything else. So don't feel that if you do have reactions from the general detox that we said, it's not a bad reaction. People can detox. Now, each step begins with a primer, and it's 9 minutes. And in that primer, as do most of our journeys, in that primer, it's all supportive. It's all things that assist you in not going through any kind of a detox response. So the backup for that is the Herc's Help. So if needed, you run Herc's Help, and then you may have to repeat up to 4 times. We say 4 times is the top end. So if you are still having detox reactions after the second time, after the third time, hit it 1 more time and then move on. So that's the best way to do it. And it's pretty simple. Just pick where you want to be. It's going to be pretty obvious when you go through some of the steps, the digestion step. If you have issues with your digestion, that may be a trigger for you. And so, just know that's going to be a little harder of a step than, say, the housing or the jacket, which would be for skin issues. You have a burn, something like that. That's when you can skip forward and go in and spot treat the burn or spot treat a sore neck, and then go back to where you were the day before. So.
Wonderful. So just a reminder that we are following this immunocompromised low to medium detox pathway. It's an example of what your first few weeks of coiling would look like. And while following the green flowchart outlined in the quick start guide, this is one person's journey. And there are areas where you can throttle down and go slower, or you can speed it up. It just depends on your body. But I wanted to give everybody on a calendar, because I know it can sound like we're talking about all these different journeys and probably lots of words you've never heard, but to lay it out and let's go through like 3 weeks and what it could possibly look like. So week 1 will be pretty standard depending on your body. But it would be, as we said, that number 1, it's that nutrition tune-up, that full nutrition tune-up. Then we're into 3 of these restorative journeys. Could be demo harmonizer, right? We always want to take 2 days off a week, so there's a day off. And then maybe we try positivity. And then maybe we move over to brain reboot and we take another day off. And then remember, we're going to do that nutrition again. We're going to queue up those nutritional receptor sites. After that first week, we would be moving in and trying a little general detox. So as I said before, that step 1 would be airways. Maybe you take a day off, maybe you take 2 days off. But then we're going to be into step 2 is going to be brain. Then we'd have a day off. I lined these up here. This should be a day off between Wednesday and Thursday. So Friday would be brain 2. And then we go to circulation. So far it's like we're kind of cruising through. Everything feels good. And then on Sunday, we get a little fever, we get a little fatigue. The option is to run Herc's Help. And then if you're feeling good, you're feeling adventurous, you can run Herc's Help again, and you can try that step, that circulation again. So that would be step number 4. And if you get another little bit of let's say a little fatigue, a little fever, you just don't want to get out of the bed in the morning, you can run Herc's Help, take the day off. You're still feeling a little bad on Wednesday, you can run Herc's Help again. You can just sit with your body. You're really going to drop into your heart and see is it time for me to move on? Is it time for me to pick up another step? And then on Thursday, maybe you're kind of feeling good. Maybe it's time to move forward. So that would be the time on Friday where this is a possibility where you could run circulation too. And then we're back to a day off. So this is just an example of how you might look at this general detox process, but everybody's going to be different. You want to continue the process through that whole 30 steps and use the general detox at the max is every other day. Always take breaks as needed. Know that for your body and for this system, this new paradigm, there's variables. And you will need to space your coiling sessions as tolerated. General detox works with balancing that first layer of microbes, metals, and toxins. And this step is preparing the body for more intense cleansing codes and is highly recommended to complete before moving on to a cleanse, which is going to be covered in our next webinar further on down the road when you guys have owned your devices for a little bit. Lori, do you want to say anything else in closing on general detox?
No, I think we got it all.
Wonderful.
Great job, Freddie.
We've got a question here. Does running Herc's help on a day off from coiling still make it a day off? Or does Herc's help not count as real coiling? I can answer that, or
That's
you
a
can,
great,
Lori. It's a great question.
that's a great question. It's a really good question. So Herc's help is only 17 minutes, 18 minutes. You know, you just have to listen to your body. And when we say 2 days off for a good reason. You know, everybody comes in and their cup of frequency is filled to a certain level. And some people come in with the cup almost full. Some people come in and they can handle any amount of frequencies and they're not sensitive to anything. You know, if you start putting frequencies into that cup and you're doing it every day, every day, every day, two things will happen. One is the cup will overflow, and two is your body won't be able to take over and handle things on their own. So, you know, it's like if you were on a heart-lung machine somewhere, you know, you'll never learn to breathe without it unless you don't have it. So that's the really important thing. So you want to, you know, I mean, a minimum of 2 days off, you know. Herc's help, if you have to do Herc's help, then run Herc's help. You know, it just, when you're doing just rejuvenating journeys, then you can be a little more lenient. When you're doing detox journeys, you only want to run detox journeys, cleanse journeys 3 times a week, every other day. So that gives you a little time in the middle to do rejuvenating journeys or whatever else you want. But, you know, Herc's help, if you know, our pain release or something like that, you know, when you're getting started and you're in distress, then you can use those. But pay attention. You know, if you're one of those people that's sensitive to Wi-Fi or, you know, electromagnetics, then you definitely want to probably coil 30 minutes a day to start, you know, every other day and see how you do.
Wonderful. Great question, Michael. So if we need extra support, if we need help, that's where our team has your back. We have 5, 6 lovely ladies that are there and ready to support you when you need it. And I kind of want to go through, because I think this is so important. It's one thing I really wasn't clear on, and that's how I utilize support and the best way to kind of set myself up for success. And you've got 3 options to connect to support. Number 1 is the help center on AmpCoil.com. Number 2 is a tablet with the talk with us function. And number 3 is to phone the message center. And we're going to go over why and how and which ones are the best route. So going through the website, AmpCoil Help Center, log in using your email, your AmpCoil password, which is AmpCoil1, unless you've changed it. We are going to see, we've got a little sound issue. Hold on, let me do this. And there we go. Perfect. And let me just unmute Lori. There we go, Lori. You good?
I am.
Perfect. So again, ampcoil.com, you put in AmpCoil1, and we're going to go up to this button here on the top. It says submit a request. And you fill out the form with your request and you simply hit submit. Now, you have the option down here to attach a picture. If you want to attach a picture of your device or cords or a question you have about a screen on your tablet, I think that's a great feature. And part 2 to this is to log back into the My Activities button. Now, this is right next to submit a request and support, and you're going to see any response that comes through from the team. So when you're reacting and you're jumping in here to see what's been said, you want a history of the status of each request that you've submitted. This is the spot to do that. Pretty self-explanatory. I opened up one of these tabs. I opened up 6214, and I had a question. My question was light on the left side. I said my question was, and I took a picture that you can't see of my lights, and I said, I want to be sure my lights on my 3.0 are correct. And Marie said the light on the left side should be on and steady. The light on the right side should flicker when identifiable signals are being sent to the coil. By identifiable, I mean signals within the meter's range. So that's great. So I have that answer forever. Number two, you can go right through the tablet through the Talk to Us feature, directly contacting support. You'll tap on Talk with Us, and you'll just start a live chat. And when someone sees it on their operating hours, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, you'll have someone whenever they see that up in their queue. It's pretty quick. And then number three, which is call support, it's the option. However, the fastest and the most effective options are either the help center, which we went through ampcoil.com, or going directly through your tablet, the Talk to Us feature. And the limitations of calling are we have time windows, we have games of playing phone tag with people when they walk away from the phone, and everybody who's trying to get in is going to be bumped out of line. So you got to think about different time zones. There's also the feature of using remote access. So everybody on support can go use this feature called Team Viewer and go right in your tablet and see where you are and see what's going on. So those are two of the big benefits about communicating through ampcoil.com or your tablet. We're going to move through here to our next slide. When you show up to support for success, this is the best thing. You got to have your tablet in your hand. You want to have a printed copy of the quick start, the getting started with a better guide, and your operational manual, because we're probably going to refer to one of those three so you can quick identify how to work through your issue. And just have an open time slot, have the availability to work with support, and an open mind, because they're wonderful at what they do, and they've supported so many people in this journey. And my friends, that is the end of our presentation. We're going to open it up for questions, but with this technology, the one thing I want to say is it's a new thing, right? There's a feedback element. And as we've said, there's variables, and AmpCoil is really simple, but your body is complicated. Everybody's got a lot of stuff that they bring to the table that's individual, and just be patient with your body and see how over time you respond to the coil. And you're going to get more energy. And what do you do with that extra energy? What do you start to access?